Rejected the left? Well, what's this here?
I will answer to this.
Okay.
Even though what you're asking me is the hardest thing in the world to do, I'll still try. But I want the concession and promise from you that after I'm done making my attempt, you're going to make yours. And how would you convert me to your worldview? Is that a deal?
Okay,
Absolutely.
let's listen to it.
Got to go right in the mic. Otherwise, I can't hear you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So here would be my pitch. My pitch would be that the society that you have created for us is fucked, and people hate it. They fucking hate it.
Yep.
And
True.
that's why you got Donald Trump. You got Donald Trump because people hate the fucking society that you feminists have made for them. And here's why.
It's because guys don't like being told what to do. That's the big reason. Fundamentally, if you ever have a rule system and a way of doing things that revolves around telling other people what to do, that's the issue. It's that women come into men's spaces, change them, and then make it mandatory that men's spaces accommodate them while simultaneously never doing any of that themselves.
That's the entire high school structure, by the way. All of education, even the types you kind of like that are better than the broken public schools, they're still designed completely around women's needs and wants. It's not designed around men, young men, boys who want a roughhouse, who have short attention spans, who want to punch a tree for no reason, who want to gather insects and create a coliseum for, black widows versus praying mantises, WWF style, or WWE.
They want to retain their privileges while also taking advantage of the privileges that men have. So they want things to be equal, but not really equal because they want to maintain the privileges that women have innately in society, right? Mm-hmm. And so don't tell me what to do, and I won't tell you where to go. Yeah, exactly, right? And so that's not just me. I don't like being told what to do. Yeah, sure, right?
They also want to be in men's spaces and be treated as equals and yet also protected by men. So it's like, give me a lanyard. Let me work a late night shift where I leave the Tower of Babel at 11 p.m. into a dark parking lot. But also, you guys got to stop, being so aggressive, men. You guys have to protect me from these evil men. It's like, make up your mind, lady.
It's like the same as it's like you can't say these words, you can't talk like this, you can't be aggressive, you can't like this content, you can't talk this way about like some attractive girl, even though it's not even about her directly. It's like all of these rules that these people have created. Why would somebody want to live in a world where you're just getting henpecked to death for just trying to relax with your friends? Why would you want to do that?
Asmond Gold, did you purposefully put the moving speech music on? I like it. I need speech music. Do you guys hear the music in the background? I mean, it's like Osmond should be on a horse with some paint on his cheeks.
Trying to relax with your friends. Why would you want to do that?
I hate it.
Jeez, you're going to make me cry, dude.
Because all the things that you consider to be freedom aren't freedoms at all. They're just taking away people's freedoms under the guise of freedom. For instance, if I asked you about gun control, I'm guessing that you would want gun control, right? Stricter gun control?
Mildly stricter in the sense that I think people with significant mental health issues documented should probably not be allowed to have guns.
Curtailing gun control. Okay, curtailing.
I agree with her, honestly. I think that they should do more to make...
I've seen some clips. I never noticed background music. Is it always like this? It sounds like I've been playing this game called Unravel. It's like you're like a little dude who's a ball of yarn and you run around and solve problems. It's actually a well-built game, I gotta say. You got to work. You could play single player or play 2-player, and you have to work together. And it's great. It's a great game. Be fun to play online. Can you play that online with someone else? It'd be fun. Anyway, the music is like this in the background. It's just so deep and ethereal.
Make sure crazy people don't get guns.
It's Skyrim. Oh, okay, it's Skyrim.
Honestly, in my opinion, I even go farther. If they're crazy, they shouldn't be in society to begin with. Lock them up in a padded room. Yeah, put them in a padded room. Like, what are we talking about? Should they have a gun or not? Let's get on my level. Should they be in society or not? Put them in a box. If you can't trust somebody to have a gun because they might go out on a shooting rampage, why the fuck are they allowed to drive a car? Make asylums great again. Beautiful. You love to see it.
Freedom on the Second Amendment. On the First Amendment, during C-19, did you think that the government, it was appropriate for them to go in and remove what they considered misinformation for the good of the public?
Misinformation.
Yeah.
I don't have a solid opinion.
Can JB absolutely not pronounce any words? What do you mean? Skeerum. 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 What did I say? Skeerum? Skyrum? Scarum? Skeerum.
Opinion on that one.
Well, earlier you did, and it seemed like
you said removing misinformation, like going through and
yeah, they worked with tech companies to remove what they considered misinformation.
Well, that's not what we talked about earlier.
That's what they did.
It's different.
I know, it's not different.
It's different than we were talking about shutdowns, were we not?
Yeah, but the part of the lockdowns was that they were depersoning people because of what they considered to be misinformation.
That's
the government
true.
was
That's
working with the technocracy in order to do that for the good
This was a huge problem.
Of all people. And it's like, I guarantee you at the time, if I go back and look at whatever content you were making, if you were making content at that time, I don't know. But I can promise that whatever social media you had, you were probably very much in the we need to get rid of misinformation camp.
I don't really blame people for being in that camp personally, because if you weren't in that camp, you could get banned just for not agreeing with them. Like, I saw people, like, for example, remember whenever Nick Merckx said that he didn't like the fact that they were trying to teach kids about gay stuff in elementary school, and then he got taken out of, like, Call of Duty's, like, program, and all of these other creators started attacking him, and they tried to cancel this guy however much as possible, right?
Yeah, we get it. We get it. That stuff happened. The craziest part about this debate, if you want to call it that, was when Rachel called in with this chick, Charlie here, Chucky, and this woman accused Rachel of being promiscuous because of the children she had, right? And Andrew asked her a question that was really brutal. He said, well, if Rachel hadn't had those kids and aborted them instead, would she still be promiscuous? Would she still be promiscuous? And the lady was like, no. So let me get this straight. If you have children, right, you keep the child. And whatever situation is, whatever it was, that's what it was, right? Let's say you're monogamous and you have children and you get married and you think it's the one and, you know, all of that happens. Based on this psychopath's view... She said no. She said no. If you aborted your kids, then you wouldn't be promiscuous. It's only promiscuity and it's frowned upon if you actually keep the baby.
Right. And so, like, yes, blame them. Well, I don't blame people because I don't hold people to a high standard of critically thinking. I think that most people are fundamentally herd animals, and they're just going to give whatever opinion is going to be the most valid or useful at the very moment in time that they're talking about it, right? That's it.
You know, because all of you guys were. And so it's like under the First Amendment, it seems like, you know, the feminist and the progressive movement, which is basically a part of the feminist movement, does what it can do to curtail freedom there, too. And it doesn't seem like you really want there to be much personal freedom, even if people say, look, you know, I just want to live among a people group that I'm familiar with and I have a preference for and an attraction to. You're like, no, that's unacceptable. And you're a bad person for even wanting to do that. And there should be legislation that stops that. And there should be legislation which stops you from having your preferences for who you hire and fire and things like that. It's just...
I'm a fan of that, actually. I think that hiring and firing people for racial reasons can be a really big problem. I think it will be a huge problem instantaneously. And the real issue is that I think that they do it now, but that the problem really is the double standard. It's that, for example, you can have these like benefits for, hiring a minority group, but if somebody does this for a person that's white, well, now it's a big problem. So I think that the idea of removing race-based hiring is good, but when it's applied asymmetrically, it's not a rule anymore, it's a weapon. That's it. Big problem in Canada with Indian immigrants? Yeah, if people are hiring for like some sort of nepotism reason, then yeah, it's a huge issue, absolutely.
I mean, nepotism to me is totally fine. As far as discrimination, it's like the double standard is really this. Why is it that you can have complete, full-on discrimination as a consumer, but you can't have discrimination as a provider? I mean, the entirety of buying in some sort of market system, the entirety is ultimately based on someone's discretion and their judgment. Now you think, well, no, it's just the product. If it's a good product, I don't care. Well, that's not true. That's not true. I would definitely say no to a certain product that was really well made based on some ethical view or some judgment about the people or the person, for sure. That's the real double standard, is that there's completely discretion and discrimination in the buying process. So why is that okay if you don't, and in the selling process it's not okay? Why not? I mean, just let discrimination go. Let's stop pretending that we as human beings could live a single day without actively and mentally discriminating. Let's stop pretending. Okay? Martin Luther King Jr. is dead. Orthodox Phrenesis for $10 says, Genesis, Creation, and Early Man by Father Seraphim Rose was recently released in the 3rd edition. Thanks be to God and the work of the monks. It's essential reading against the heresy of evolution. Yeah, I was looking for that book, Orthodox Phrenesis, and it was like $375. So I was like, well, let me just wait.
I guess my biggest pitch to you,
let me just discriminate,
would just be this. Like, it's really funny for me that the Christian nationalists get this rep that we're like fascist, dictatorial crazies who want to take away freedoms. And yet every single time I talk to one of you feminists or I talk to one of you progressives, and it's basically synonymous at this point. I mean, there's no progressives really who aren't feminists. And there's no feminists really who aren't progressive.
That's true.
It just seems to me like the totalitarian nature of everything that I've seen has come from you guys. Like the C-19 lockdowns, the COVID passports, the wear your papers, that was you guys. The remove all of the information because the government doesn't like it from private websites and put pressure on them to do it, that was you guys.
This is what I always said, is that these people, I say this every day, right? Is that these people don't want to not have a king. They want to be the king. They don't want to get rid of the police. They want to be the police. They don't want to, get rid of social media. They want to control social media. It's again, they don't really, it's not that they're not against authoritarianism. They're against another brand of authoritarianism that isn't their own. Like, that's really what's going on.
And the other thing I noticed is I bet that woman has really stinky vegetarian dumps. Something I think Asmond, no, nothing against you, man. I think you missed that, though. I think you missed something here.
The whole idea of you need to wear your state-sponsored piece of clothing, the mask, that came from you guys. It's like all of the fascist dystopian things that I can imagine that Orwell was warning about and things like that. That doesn't come from us. That always seems to come from you guys. The people who are the fascist hunters seem to be the very worst at real freedom.
Here by any chance?
Well, hang on. Let me finish my.
Can I just insert a red herring for some reason?
My pitch.
What the fuck does that have to do with anything?
Me questions about it, right? So
she's like, do you think Peter Thiel has full-blown AIDS?
You wanted me to give you the most convincing argument that I possibly can. It would just be this: that everything we talk about is actually you curtailing freedom, not me. And everything that we end up ultimately discussing seems to come down to the fact that you just want to kind of engage in degenerate behaviors. And that's the only freedom you seem to care about, the freedom to promiscuously have sex and then have an abortion to take care of that if you need to, even if it's the case that by removing...
I think you don't want the kid, just get rid of it. You call it murder, I say, okay, sure, do it.
That, there would be less unwanted babies born.
I mean, if you know my worldview of like 50 other things, you realize that I don't really place a high value on a lot of people's lives. I don't.
Oh, is this his abortion take? Well, that's a big dub. L's in the chat, Asmond. L's in the chat. L's in the chat. L's in the chat. Stop it, Asmond. Stop it. Don't be a nihilist, dude. Look, dude, if you're a nihilist, then there's nothing wrong with feminism. You're just like, I don't like to eat at that pizza place. I don't like this, right? Come on, dude. Develop. Asmond, develop here. You can't have this, like, moralist view on feminism, and I'm tired of it, and that's why Donald Trump's here, and we're sick of it all, right? Well, we're sick of people like you advocating for abortion, okay? How is it you're going to heavily critique feminism but not see the entailment and the symptom that is abortion that's completely inextricably tied to it, dude? You asshead.
I don't. Like, I'm talking about putting everybody in jail. Like, really, is this truly a shocking viewpoint for me to have when I'm totally in support of bombing any of the boats, bringing over the stuff? I was in support of bombing Iran. I was in support of putting people in jail categorically for being crazy. Like, really, I mean... inside of my worldview with things, I'm in support of, somebody throws a brick at the cop shoots them, I think W. I don't care. Like, this is actually very consistent with all my other beliefs.
Not really. It's not consistent. I'll tell you what's not consistent, Asmond, because obviously you run your own thing, you're very successful, right? You don't need to actually be countered by anybody, and you don't even need to listen to people who counter you. But you're not actually consistent. The reason is you're not consistent is that you hold a meta-ethical view on something. What's inconsistent is the reasoning you hold the meta-ethical view, the thing that you're grounding your meta-ethics in. Don't do that, that's wrong. Ultimately isn't applied equally. So that's where the inconsistent is. Now, if you said, I don't have any meta-ethical view, nothing's actually wrong, everything I'm saying isn't right or wrong or true or false, I'm just a gibberator who's locked into my house, right, and overwhelmed with the success I've had, right? Well, then you'd be more consistent. Like a nihilist who's consistent is someone who would admit that any time he says a claim or posits a position, whether it's a truth claim or an ethical claim, you should always say, by the way, that was just sounds coming out of my mouth and it doesn't matter. None of it matters. Reviewing this doesn't matter. Andrew's statement, battling this dumb chick, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who wins or loses.
Still think that we need to have that because, people just need to be able to fuck if they want and be promiscuous if they want and have STDs if they want. It's like, it always seems like the freedom that you guys advocate for is only a freedom towards degeneracy.
Well, it's a self-referential. They just want to do what they want to do. That's it.
And never.
That's your view. What are you talking about? You just showed now I'm reviewing him. Forget Andrew and this chick. That's literally your view, Asmond. He's like, oh yeah, Andrew's base. Look at him. He's he's tearing this chick up. They just want to do what they want to do. That's your view. You're the feminist now. Make me famous.
Ever actually about freedoms that are really intrinsic to the human experience.
You're forgetting red stupid. Yeah, basically.
And even more than that, I would just point this last thing out, which is,
how's that for paradox?
If you had a society where it was really full of more people like me, Right, it was full of people who did take their religion seriously, and they took their family dynamic seriously. And they took the things that they were doing seriously.
Look at him sipping that giant Coke. You seen this? I've never really tapped into this guy before. I feel like I might have to animate him. You know, a lot of people animate him. I know that he reviews it sometimes. He makes them. I think I might have to. I think I might have to make an animation. I mean, look at this guy. I mean, look at him go. Look at that Coca-Cola. Are you kidding me? Look at that. That's like a bucket.
In regards to morality and ethics.
This chick said she did testosterone to transition. Yeah, I know. She kind of reads like, I could wear one of those old cabbie hats from the 20s. I could read a paper and put my pants on. They always end up looking like weak men from the 1920s for some reason. They just gravitate toward that. And they have like Doc Marten boots. I'm gonna go out and walk like a young man. I'm gonna read the papers.
Ethics and how to treat people and not sacrificing the whole for the small percentage of fucking, you know, LGBTQ people and this and that. How would the world really be a worse place? Objectively, how would the world that you live in really be worse?
I could easily come up with tons of reasons why having a religious theocracy or anything that's governed by a religious ideal could be problematic. I mean,
not from your worldview. The guy who just said from his own worldview to throw people in jail, right? To, you know, bomb Iran, to do this, do that. Who cares, right? And now he's like, I can see how it's a problem. What, dude, what's wrong with you? What are you, bipolar? Asmond? Is one of your names Asmond and the other character is Gold? This guy's all over the place. Why is he famous? 4 million? What is happening in the world?
The fact is, I mean, Andrew knows this. Andrew's older than I am, right? Is that, like, the truth, I mean, this is a long video. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I'll kind of address kind of what he's saying is that, like, I grew up in the era of, like, the Bush administration, you had the Iraq War, and you had the Satanic Panic. I think the truth is that right-wing and left-wing people generally want to tell other people what to do.
Yes, and you saying they shouldn't do that is you telling them what they can't do. So let's all agree, Asmond Gold, use your little thinker. I know you don't get much sun. There's no escaping the paradox of force. If we all agree that the nature of reality and the nature of an organized society with any sort of laws is going to rely on the assumption that we're going to be not only telling people what to do, Asmond Gold, but we're going to be using a gun to some extent for certain things. Let's start there, shall we, retard? He's like, oh, the left and the right, they're just telling people what to do. That's what it comes. Wow, that's deep and I'm 14. Why are you famous? What a retard. Everyone's been telling me, oh, you know, Asmond Gold, he has some good takes. No, he doesn't. It's a take of a freaking 15-year-old stunted in his growth. Sounds like a guy who never was hit by his dad. Fucking dummy.
They do. They want to tell you what to do. Good. It just depends on who wants to say what. And that's the main problem, is that you have two different groups of authoritarians that are vying for control, whether it's McCarthyism or then back over to hippies and then drugs and then back over to, you know, the 1980s, 90s and into the 2000s family values, now into, again, more of the, trans for everybody, right? LGBT, et cetera, stuff. And now anything is okay and everything is racist, except for things that are, happening to white people, which are okay. And now it's transitioning again. And now you're seeing.
Who told you Asmond Gold has good takes? I don't know who it was, but I'm going to block them if I find out.
People that are getting purity tested for being Jewish. Like, at the end of the day, we really need to accept that human beings just have this natural, like people that seek power generally seek power because they want to use it as a weapon.
That's true, but that's not the wholeness of being human. What's also true, Asmond Gold, is people who want to live in an ordered society don't really care. They actually want someone in power. That's the part you're missing, Asman, is that people, ordinary people like you and me, we like that there's a normative structure. We like that there's people with guns ultimately maintaining the order of society. We like that. He's always talking about like this guy and many people like him always talk about the small percent of people who seek power. They're like, they want to be in control. They want to figure out how to have influence and money and force. Yeah, that doesn't change. That's at this point an obvious description of some part of humanity. He fails to acknowledge the other part of humanity that relies wholly on those people seeking those positions of power because you don't want to. Which is why you get like the Adam Greens. He calls out the Jays, the name-ems, he does his whole shtick, and you ask him point blank, who do you think should be in the same control? Who do you think should be at the helm? Now, the difference between Asmond Gold and Andrew here and people like myself, we're ready to admit who we want at the helm. We at least admit it. You're still stuck in a liberal phase. How old is he? How old is this guy? You're still stuck in a liberal fantasy that nobody gets power. That's ideal. No, that's a disaster. That's a disaster. You're going to be, oh, nobody, this problem with people taking power. What we need is to be on a ship where nobody's steering. That sounds really good. You dumb schmuck. Fucking retard.
They want to use this power as a weapon. It's a power paradox of what happens where you have people that are going out and they spend all of their time trying to maintain a position of power. Why are they so motivated? They're so motivated because they're radical. They're radical and extreme, and they want to do that.
Really? Is this it? Is this what he's got? 4 million!
So yes, correct. The only difference between them is how they deliver the control. Yes, I guess so. Continuing to misuse the word authoritarian is just going to legitimize people using it in a dumb way. Well, I guess I don't know. Like, what do you? I feel like authoritarian is like. Let's look up the definition of authoritarian. Authoritarian meaning. Let's just look this up directly. Favoring or enforcing strict obedience to authority. Yeah, it's basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's basically how any civilized society has to maintain itself. There's no way of ordering a society without that definition. So the question of authoritarianism, the only thing people are debating is at what threshold of authority that they're willing to deploy. That's it. That's the only debate. You know what I mean? The debate isn't even, feminism bad because it's pro-authority. No, that's not the argument. That's what the right wing has been arguing. That's what the Ben Shapiros have been arguing. Well, they're bad. They want authority. We don't do that around here. They want to use the government, and that's the difference between the two of us. We use argumentation and facts and persuasion. And then they use something else, something truly nefarious. It's like, no. The moment you vote for abortion to be illegal, you're an authoritarian, definitionally. The only question is to what extent, to what magnitude. That's it. I wish people were more honest about this problem.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it, right? I mean, like, I don't know really what else to say. I mean, sure. So I need to see here.
Get a drink of water, bro. Why do I need to know every square inch of what's happening inside your mouth? Maybe don't drink soda. Maybe drink some water. My misophonia is acting up, and I'm feeling very authoritarian right now about it. Speaking of putting people with receding hairlines in a cage.
Her response? Okay.
I just don't think that I've ever heard a compelling argument for how it would. And so I think that I would try to make for you, instead of logical appeals, I would just make a purely emotional appeal that, like, The world for you would actually be a much better place if there was more Christian nationalists like me and less Charlies with your worldview.
He avoids water. He probably has some low form of rabies. He probably has hydrophobia.
Well, I wouldn't be able to go to school if that was, people's
women. Listen,
because again, it was indeed feminism that
Yeah, I've heard this argument a lot, but can I just point something out?
Sure.
That with this idea that women could be educated.
That's funny.
Right? And they, by the way, they basically always were able to. They flew around with elites all over the place, especially early feminists. And they went abroad to study and things like this. But
why is he called the Roach King, EBT? Is it because he lives in this apartment that's roach infested? Like, he looks like he lives in squalor? Is that what it is? Or why do they call him that?
What that became was women should get educated. And what that became was a lot of student debt and a massive fucking racket.
Asmond Gold is a hydrophobe. Hydrophobe!
And college is not about rewarding the best and the brightest, or not everybody could go. Okay? It's really right now, the degree that you have, an 8th grader 50 years ago knows more than you fucking know. Okay, about history, about math, about social sciences. An 8th grader 60 years ago knows more than you do right now. And
Is
it's
that really
like,
what you think?
Yeah, not only do I
guaranteed they do, but the reason why is because they had a deeper knowledge in fewer subjects. So you learned a lot about like Roman history. You learned a lot about, like different types of European culture, but you didn't learn about, 50 other new things that, you're being taught nowadays.
He's had roaches on him during streams. Ugh.
So yeah, it was less spread. So yeah, you had a deeper understanding on fewer topics. It's easy to understand.
I think that if I gave you a test,
sure,
that an 8th grader would have 60 years ago, you would fail it with your college degree.
I'd probably fail it, let's be honest.
And the reason for that,
I think also 8th graders would fail tests that they give 8th graders today too, because the curriculum is different. People are just being taught different things.
I mean, he was using an example, like, honestly, we're being autistic about it, both of us. The point is, Andrew's making is that especially looking at feminism, especially looking at, let's just say, forget feminism for a second. Let's say feminism being synonymous with egalitarianism. The bigger problem that Andrew has argued many times is that egalitarianism, which feminism relies on the assumptions of, is itself counterintuitive, based on a lie, impractical, nonsensical. And egalitarianism, the notion of egalitarianism around, let's say, education, this notion that everyone should be educated is already stupid. Now, it sounds silly saying that, right? Like, you say that out loud, and today people are like, that's terrible. What do you mean? No. Insofar as what education is in America and how it's seen as some sort of like, everyone should do it, try it out. Well, egalitarianism paired with government secured loans and this notion that everyone should go to college is actually at fault, right? One of the causes that makes the value of education itself completely gone right now. Because, look at it simply. Colleges suddenly know that government's going to secure loans for anything. So they go, we need to increase the menu. If they're going to pay for people to buy off the menu, we're going to add to the menu. Okay? That makes sense. So they add stupid crap to the menu. And then suddenly you get this Marxist theory on the menu. You get intersectionality on the menu. You get lesbian dance theory on the menu. How to care for a trans horse on the menu. Feminism. Standpoint theory on the menu. Well, because it's paid for. The debt goes to, they either take on debt or it's paid for, right? Either way, it's still debt. All stemming from this philosophy of egalitarianism that everyone ought to have equal knowledge and skill or education. No, that's stupid. Education was never like that. Education was exclusive. You were fancy if you went to college. You were fancy if you left the town. Before you got on the bus, all your friends would say, "You're the best guy for this job. Do it for us, retards back home. Don't forget about us." That was the notion of higher education, college, degrees and stuff. Not anymore. That's long gone. I don't even know when it ended, but it wasn't recent that it ended. It's been a while. But it's egalitarianism. That's the problem. It's a false assumption. It's a lie. And the women happen to be the subject that were most lied to about this. And now they're all figuring it out. Some of them are anyway. I've seen a bunch of clips of women going, "What the hell am I doing? Why am I dating? What is this Tinder stuff? Why am I looking at potential males like I'm picking out a purse? Why did I go to college? I'm 28. I'm getting older. What am I doing? I want a family. How do I do this?" And then you end up like Charlie here, just a terrible version of a man, basically. That's what it does. Egalitarianism and feminism has produced a society of women who are just bad men, who are just lesser men.
It's because
and also another thing too is that back 50 years ago, and this is what I said before about how they should take the bottom 10% of kids out of schools that are stupid and then put them into work programs. And you should just probably start doing this at like 5th grade or so. And because there's just some people that are just stupid, right? It's like you have an ant in an anthill. Like not every ant is going to be the smart ant, right? There's going to be some ants that just bring the rocks from point A to point B, and that's it. And so the fact is that one of the big problems with American education is that it's curated to appeal to and to cater to the bottom 20% of educated people and people's intelligence. And really, if you create a education system that caters to the bottom 20% of intelligence, you're going to have a system that also does not engage the top half.
You're also going to have a system that says it's okay for black people to speak Ebonics and broken English. So it doesn't just cater. It literally rearranges itself, what education actually is. Now, he's not saying this. Asmond Gold isn't not saying this. But just to be more rigorous, it starts way earlier than higher education and college. Way earlier. You send a kid from, who has a, he's black, therefore he deserves this private school education. He gets into school, raises his hand, and nobody knows what he's saying. You know what I mean? He's speaking urban, broken English. And the teacher's like, "Oh, I can't. I'm actually legally not allowed to correct him and tell him, well, we got to get this situated." No, you just call it culture. Oh, he's a different, it's racist to correct his English. It starts way early. The lowered standard starts way early. Even putting boys in school is already starting them off wrong. They shouldn't even go to school. Boys should be doing like whittling and hunting and welding from like 5 years old up, right? They shouldn't be stuck inside of a room with fluorescent lights with a desk listening to some feminist tell them, "Don't throw a paper airplane, don't deadleg your friend or you're going to jail, kid jail." They need to escape. They need to be more like wild animals, honestly. That's how I grew up. They need to have walnut fights. They need to throw rocks at each other's heads. Small ones, but enough to shed blood. You know what I mean? They need frozen paintball wars. Titty twisters. Dead legs. Native American burns. Remember this? Remember doing that to your friends?
And so that's the problem with, I think, the education system is that you have, and let me ask you a very simple question, right? When you were in school, if you removed the most annoying 5% of the students in that school, what percentage of the problems in the school would go away?
That was retarded, Asmond. That was That was like equivalent to a brain fart.
The bottom 5%. 99%. Every single problem. There it is. There it is.
He figured it out, guys.
Everybody.
What is he talking about?
Everybody knows that this is the problem. Everybody gets it. So I'm the only person that says, what about the other 95% of people that are trying to, or 80% of people that are trying to learn, trying to improve themselves, and not causing problems, that have to live in a contrived system because we refuse to discipline the bottom 5%?
What? Is he talking about black people but using school as a euphemism? Is he talking about the... Is he doing the 50-13? It's actually not 13. It's the 57 argument, because the 13 would include women, and it's usually not the women. But like he's using a he's just not saying it, but it has nothing to do with school, dude. Talking about society. Is he talking about society? Is this his like soft-based take?
Really? You think about it. Everybody else is being tyrannized. We have to go to Costco, or not Costco. We have to go to CVS or Walmart and ask to fucking talk to a manager to unlock a jewel case to buy underwear. What the fuck are we doing?
That's why I order Mormon underwear online, Osmond. You should try it sometime.
Any fucking education in school, you got a lot of student debt at school. Yeah, that's what you ended up with, because it's become a giant racket. And if it was really about the best and the brightest, then not everybody could go.
Do you know what No Child Left Behind Act is? Yeah, I abused the fuck out of it because it's...
See, I don't even think that education... People look at education, they're like, we need a better education. It's like, dude, knowing stuff doesn't change really how people act. That's my claim. Now, how do I prove that? I'm not actually sure, actually. But I'm going to run with it for a second. Sending someone to school doesn't change the culture that they grow up in, the norms and the way they talk necessarily, especially in America. Now, if we sent people and sent them into etiquette school, like proper British ones, you know what I mean? That would be different. How to hold their body correctly, how to sip bowls of soup the right way. But there's a much larger issue, which is cultural, that, this topical ointment that Asmond Gold is, he seems to be always giving topical ointments. He never gets into the disease itself, apparently. Is that normal for him? Is that what he does? Am I getting a good read on this guy? He just talks about the Band-Aids, the types of Band-Aids that you can use. Oh, look, a colorful Band-Aid. This one's a Band-Aid that attacks the surface. This one's good because it has like ointment in the bandage that leaks into the wound. That's good. I'm like, no, it doesn't sound like he's getting into the core.
It said you could only get a 50 in a class, and so I would get a 90 in a class, and then I just wouldn't do anything for the next period, like the next grading period, and I'd get a 0, but it would have to get rounded up to a 50, and a 90 and a 70, or a 50 would average to a 70, and I'd pass the class. So I only really had to do half of the work. I only had to do effectively 45% of the work in a class in order to pass the class, because of that system. And I just min-maxed the fuck out of it. Like, my dad would be furious. Like, I would get like a 93 in a class, and he's like, great job. And then I'd get a 53 the next fucking 6 weeks. He's like, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to pass anyway. It doesn't matter.
Oh, and maybe everyone shouldn't go, because it's really for most of it, the stuff that you learn in high school,
1455,
right? Now, why is it that
crazy.
Every high school educated person I come across seemingly is just as intelligent as every college person I come across?
That's an interesting perspective. I haven't had a similar experience in my lifetime.
Yeah, well, it's because college education is highly specialized. So obviously, if you have a college education in neuroscience, you're not going to appear more educated in something like economics. Like, I mean, it's like such a simple answer. Like, what?
I actually can't do it anymore. Maybe I have to make my takes dumber.